Super Mind Stretchers.
It's got a charm to it.
This would be the point in which
The audio
would
suddenly kick in.
leap
Nice.
into acceptable. No, I do have a little bit of white noise in my cans,
Okay, what is that?
but I don't think it's above a concerning level. I think
We're not doing too. I mean, there's a fridge.
the fridge,
and there's-
yeah, more than I thought.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, with these with the SM7s,
You got,
but
you got filters, don't you?
I do.
Just-
I'm just going to do a check. Yeah, I mean, I've got this is this appears to be just what it would be doing. So anyway, that's
Just run
my
it through
brain.
a
You can hear my
low
brain.
range filter.
Yeah.
High pass.
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
compressor. Dolby
Yeah, there'd definitely be some of that going on.
flange. Is there any
Ooh.
flange? Is that a bodily
is a
function? I don't
flange?
know.
I think there's a plug-in for that.
We're going to have the same great thing of a podcast with two brothers that sound almost identical.
If it sounds a bit funny, it's because I did apply a flange, but my 30-day free trial of the plug-in ran out.
You plugged in a flange.
I
They say
plugged
don't
in a
plug it all
flange.
the way in. That's the problem, isn't it? You end up
Oh.
in ER.
Yeah. Live and learn.
Another great TV show. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, been watching a bit of that lately, actually. My sister,
Your sister?
Erin,
Yeah, I was going to say.
she's been putting on, and it's
Is it good having an excuse in the house with you? Because I also
yeah.
feel like you would end up doing these on your own.
Yeah,
You might
maybe.
just, I don't know.
well, she
Maybe you wouldn't
finds
tell
them
us.
though. She
found ER.
She will seek out ER.
It's right next to ET on the
Yeah.
DVD rack. If
Mhm.
you're mixing
Yeah.
video, movies and TV shows.
Mhm.
But does that?
Would it be though? Because ET does have the period decimal.
an ER doesn't.
ER doesn't. ER
It's
is
just
just Yeah, I thought in that I can
Uh.
remember it was the early 90s and the ad for ER came on TV and I said to my mum, because my mum was a registered nurse,
Okay. An RN.
I said, yes,
Arun.
Arun.
Mm.
And I said,
Arun.
that's actually my sister's name.
Hey.
But I ended up going up to her because I was a young lad and I was excited that there was a show that I'm sure she would enjoy. And I said, Mum, there's a new show coming on called And I mean, I was a
And she
silly
said,
child.
She said, yeah, what
But I
is it
was
called?
smart
And you're
enough.
like, and she's like, yeah, come on. I'm in a hurry, Brendan. Tell me what it is.
I was old enough to know that if it was supposed to be ER, maybe put little dots there, but they
Mm.
didn't. And I remember that.
Well, that's fair enough. That's
And
an
I
easy mistake to
also
make.
remember the theme song absolutely slapping. And I can confirm it does.
Can you hum it?
Yeah, that was the next
Um,
question I had was, can you do it?
Dum, 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 dum.
What visuals do they have while that's going?
It's sort of like a wash of different scenes from, and it's kind of like highly solarized and
Green?
Oh.
I'm picturing
Oh.
green.
Ad. Where's my ad? Where's my
Oh no, those are the best bits.
ad blocker? All right, let's see.
Whenever it's an ad,
Did you know your everyday mobile works can save you 10%
Everyday
off
mobile.
every month?
Oh, perfect. He brought it home because he answered a banana at the grocery store.
the funniest thing
Yeah.
that there is.
Are we already getting ads for this podcast? That's
No,
awesome.
I don't even know.
no,
what
I
product
won't
it was
do.
'cause
I
skipped
told you
it
at
too
the
quickly.
start, I won't do ad reads. I won't do it.
Okay,
I
so
might
this
have had
is
the right
theme
key
song.
there.
Noah Wiley, Laura Innes. So we're getting, it's just sort of very blue washed,
Yep.
little flashes of action. David Lyons flicking his stethoscope back over his neck. That was a pretty cool move.
Yep.
Paul Parman and Groshi's running. John Stamos just smouldering in the camera there.
Hang on.
Linda
Was
Cardellini.
Stamos there from the beginning? Oh, hang on. No,
Scott
he was the
Grimes.
later edition, surely.
Eric LaSalle. I don't know
What
which.
season is this, Ben?
Angela Bassett. It doesn't tell me. It's a YouTube clip from
Has
2012.
Clooney come up yet? If
No,
Clooney's
no
not in
Clooney.
it, it's late in the days.
No Clooney. Yeah,
What is
interesting.
ER without Clooney?
But the song was always the same?
Song was always the same.
So you'd get a bit of coin from doing the theme song for a show like ER if you got paid,
Oh, yeah.
you know, every... The guy that... I listened to a really cool podcast about the guy that did the Power Rangers theme song.
Mm.
Now let me think if I get this right. He was like a Middle Eastern self-made sort of entrepreneur. He like he worked in a factory and saved up all his money, and then bought eventually a rundown concrete factory and kind of flipped it. I think he kind of like got it back on its feet again, and then. But he loved music, and he was in a band, and he really wanted to do music as his career. So he made this money from running this concrete factory, and then sold the factory, took the money, went to Europe, started like a band in Paris, and had like a rock band. Was trying to get money together. Always wanted to get to the US because he was like that's where his like dream of making music professionally, and then got to the US. And then was such a businessman that he was looking into the music industry because they couldn't make any money, him and his band. And they're like, there's no money in like trying to be musicians, and record deals are terrible.
Yeah.
But like TV is where the money is for music. Because if you can just get like a 60-second bit of a song, like a theme song or something like that on, then you get paid by the network. You get paid every time the song gets played. And it's like way better.
Yeah.
This is sort of back in the like 70s.
And where is this? Sorry, this was...
Where in the world? In the US? In the 70s? I think you went to LA.
Sure.
So then he got into the TV industry.
I'm sure you said America, but
So he bounced around, from the Middle East to Europe to the US. And then he was like, and kids TV is where it really is, because kids TV has music all the way through the show.
Yeah, right.
Whereas, like most adult TV just has like a theme song. So he's like, right, so we're going to write music for kids TV shows. And I forget exactly which, but he was responsible for some of the big ones. Like he started his own record label to like license out the music that he would record.
Right.
And it was like, I'm pretty sure like they did the Inspector Gadget theme song.
Oh,
and
I've got that on
the
vinyl.
Thundercats theme song. Like there's some, he did all these classic theme songs, and then he wanted to get into TV production. So then he took the money that they were getting from doing theme songs, and he's like, I want to have a kids TV show. And he was on a trip to Japan trying to license music in Japan.
That's
And
right.
he turned on the TV and he saw this show. He wanted to make like an action TV show in America, but the special effects budgets were just so costly. But he was in Japan and he put on the show, and it was these people in like, it was these teenagers, but then they'd put on these power suits in different colors and they'd fight, in these giant monsters and stuff. And it was like something like Godzilla and the what are those things in Pacific Rim and like
the big
all that
mechs.
all that stuff mixed together, and it was Power Rangers, but what would become Power Rangers. And he's like, and he tracked down the production company. He went there and he's like, I want to license your show, but just the action scenes. So he's like, because they were like, it cost this much. He's like, I don't have that much money. He's like, but I don't want the whole show. Just let me buy just the action scenes, because like the rest of it, I think it was like from the late 60s even. I think it was quite old. But because it was Japan, the special effects and the martial arts and stuff was actually pretty good still, even in the 70s. So he's like, that's fine. I'll just reshoot when they take their helmets off, I'll just reshoot all that stuff with American actors in America. Cheap.
Write my own story.
That's what he did. So he's licensed all the special effects stuff from Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And that guy still owns he's still an executive producer on like the new like Michael Bay did the Power Rangers. I'm saying new, like a few years back now.
Yeah.
And he never like relinquished full rights to it.
Right.
He ended up not just making Power Rangers, he ended up like buying that, got him like enough money and enough kind of pull in the US to then start like creating other kids TV shows. Then he bought a network. He bought an old Christian TV network and turned it into like a kids television network. So he got rid of all this Christian content. He bought the license, like the broadcast, like I don't know what you call it, like cable permission to be able to broadcast stuff.
Right.
There must be a name for that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Turned it into a kids network. It got so profitable that Fox wanted to buy it. Like Rupert Murdoch wanted to buy it from him, and he kept on highballing like Rupert Murdoch until he like kept offering him more. He ended up selling it for something like $4 billion to the Murdoch
hot dog,
like to Fox, and he kept the rights to a bunch of stuff like Power Rangers and stuff. Anyway, just an interesting guy.
Kids were where the money were at.
Yeah. And he just loved like some of those. If you go and track down some of this like theme songs, he just loved music, and they were actually really cool. Like, theme songs.
Power Rangers.
That's right. Go Power Rangers.
I remember when I was a kid, I used to just have a folder on the computer. And Ben, you remember we just had a computer where we'd probably just have our own folders on there. One was just called Tom. And probably all I had in there was like 5, maybe not even MP3s. They're probably WAV files.
But it was probably, you could probably get like a custom icon.
Yes.
So your icon was like a soccer ball or something instead of just a normal manila folder.
On my Tom folder for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I just had theme songs. I just figured out how to download TV show theme songs, and Inspector Gadget was one of them.
Yeah.
That's the best.
I had them as
one.
MIDI files because all we could do is MIDI files when we first that was as big a file as you could download.
Yeah. I can remember when MP3s first like came onto the scene, and my friend from down the road, he had like 800 megabytes of Weird Al MP3s, and I thought, who's this Weird Al? And the rest is history. But he used to give me like a floppy disk with like an MP3 on it, and I would take it home. And sometimes that floppy disk, if I was lucky, would have some of those custom icons on it that I could take and apply to my files.
Or a screensaver. That was so exciting. Custom screensavers.
Yeah.
That was like hours of fun. Flying toasters. My school had a digital camera with a floppy disk that you could put in it. So it was like... I
remember that as well. That was like... Did Canon or Kodak make them? And it was like the first... I can remember the print. My principal got one.
Yeah.
And you could fit like 4 photos on it at a certain quality.
Yeah.
And he was like, this is it. Yeah.
Speaking of back in the day, so you had a kind of a nugget of an idea for a podcast.
Oh, yes.
Which, Tom, maybe you guys have talked about it, but I don't.
I don't think I had talked about this idea with
I told you to save it until we were on mic.
Right, okay.
I'm curious. I'm curious. There's a little
Yeah.
teaser for it, right? But I don't even know how relevant this will be for you, which is probably not a bad thing. No, I think the content will be relevant.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm wondering what your reference point will even be. So what?
Sure.
So tell me what you thought about it.
I am so curious.
Well, a dream of mine, Tom, is to meet Rob Morrison and Dean Hutton from the Curiosity Show.
Okay.
And I thought,
what was the Curiosity Show?
The Curiosity Show was a children's educational TV show made in our mutual, you, Tom, you, Ben, and me, Brendan, our mutual hometown of Adelaide. It was shot here between I think it started in like the early 70s. Does it go that way?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So I did no research once you mentioned this. I was like, I'm going to do it all on mic.
And I actually haven't, because I wasn't, this is, because you said, wait for it I wasn't even sure that this was the road we were going to go down. And so I didn't actually do any research as well. But this is just from my curiosity because what's happened recently with the Curiosity Show, that let me be clear, was huge for me as a kid. This show.
Did you watch this? Do you remember the Curiosity Show? This has got to be before your time.
But I do remember Dean Hutton.
Yeah,
because
I
Dean
knew
Hutton
you'd know
used to
Dean
visit our
Hutton.
school, and I remember him from other things.
Yeah,
but
so
not the
you've probably
Curiosity
met
Show.
Dean Hutton.
Yes,
without seeing the Curiosity Show.
Yes.
And Brendan, you haven't met Dean.
Definitely remember him.
Now, this you might not know.
No, okay.
I have met Dean Hutton.
Okay. Bombshell already, episode 1.
All right. Okay, so I was working at the bank. I was working at Bank SA, which is also relevant because it's the bank for all South Australians, of which Dean Hutton is one.
Still email me.
And
I have not had an account there in years.
And I was working there, not the job for me, but this is a few years back. And I was working just, day to day, and one day I was just distracted, and a customer come up with his daughter, I assume daughter, and they're making a deposit, and without giving anything away, details come up on the screen about the account name, da 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 da.
He'd be flush.
I reckon they're probably not.
A few zeros
they're
after.
Probably not.
A few commas in this
figure.
They don't
have too much to worry about, because I know the show was big in Germany as well.
Big in Germany.
Big in Germany. So, there was a German dub version that you can find. But
I'm already liking this.
And it said the Curiosity Show, something like account for something.
Das Curiosity.
Yeah, and I just went, I don't know, without looking up, I went, Curiosity Show. I remember that show. I remember that show from when I was a kid. I loved it. And I looked up the lady, and she goes, and she kind of did the eyes, just like, look over there next to me. And I just looked at this man, and I just, oh my gosh, it's Dean Hutton. And so I shook his hand, and I said, thank you for sparking my curiosity as a kid. Because and the coolest thing has happened in recent years. Dean and Rob, who both still live in Adelaide, I'm pretty sure, have got together and purchased, if I'm not wrong, I'm sure this is not from research, this is just from hearsay, so do your own. But they have purchased all the rights to all the tapes of the Curiosity Show for it ran from the 70s through to the 90s. So there's a good like at least 20 years worth of
awesome.
Just like hundreds upon hundreds, thousands of hours of just little curios for kids, and there were science experiments and there were magic tricks, and then they'd go on location and talk about interesting things about Australia and wildlife and everything. It's incredible. They bought all the rights. They're putting it on YouTube. There are thousands of hours on the Curiosity Show YouTube channel, thousands of videos, and it holds up incredibly well. The synthesizer music for like the stings between segments is hilarious and amazing.
Oh, I wonder who did the music.
The theme. Speaking of slapping theme songs, Curiosity Show punches with the best of them, and like these guys, they're on screen like rapport with each other and with kids, and it's amazing how right.
Hang on,
they
so
got it.
take us back to you met Dean Hutton at the bank. So
Yeah.
this
This is a long time ago, and it
All
was,
right.
and he seemed very.
Mustachioed.
I was gonna. First question I had was moustache.
Oh yeah, he had the moustache.
Okay.
I'm gonna have a lot of moustache.
Yeah.
Questions, comments, feedback as we go through. So, Tom, the
Yes.
proposal is: I think we should watch everything there ever is about the Curiosity
I
Show.
am so happy about
just
that
talk about
idea.
it. And it might just take us the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
It sounds
Amazing
like there
idea.
is thousands.
I am so
I had
happy
no
about
idea
that.
it was 70s through 90s. That blows my mind. I was going to start by asking, I think it's 80s, but whenever I think something's 80s, it's actually 90s.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it could go back to the 70s. First question then was moustache. Second question was
Mhm.
jumper.
Oh,
Was there some kind of snazzy jumper?
I was so distracted by the moustache and how happy I was that it was
Yeah.
there that I
You'd
don't
be
think I
blinded by
noticed
that
the
tash.
dress.
Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
going to know it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like when you want to look at like what do they call it when the star is just next to the sun, but you got it. So you can't stare directly at the sun. But you can see
Yeah.
something. But
Yeah.
there's some metaphor in there.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Hutton and Morrison would be able to explain better than I
Mhm,
can.
they would.
about that
They
dazzling
would. When we
moustache.
find
If
that
anyone
video,
could.
we'll flag it. Yeah.
And then I've got a clear picture in my head of Dean Hutton, but then Rob Morrison merges with
Mhm.
other figures from like childhood television for me. So I don't think I registered him as well.
right.
Did he have like longer hair?
Sometimes he had
Hutton
lighter
kept
hair.
it kind of like high and tight, I thought. A little
Yeah.
bit, kind of, for a 70s-ish, 80s.
Yeah.
Who are you picturing in your head when we talk about Dean Hutton? Like, what's a kind of like, if we did the cutting eyes and features out of a magazine and we had to do a composite image?
Yeah.
Now, for me, Dean Hutton, definitely moustache. I just
Yeah.
see big, I don't know if bushy is the word I would use, but a full moustache.
Yeah.
Yes.
And no other facial hair that I can remember. Maybe some chops. I can't remember. Like just some small chops on the
They
side.
definitely, you see, they definitely rode the waves of fashion throughout their tenure.
Oh,
on
okay.
the
See,
show.
I'll be interested to see how it changes because, again, in my mind, the hair is, and I probably got this reference wrong, but to me, kind of I don't know if I'm thinking of the right person, but like Tom Selleck, but like
yeah.
You're just thinking of the moustache.
Big-
This is
back
the
to the
problem. That
moustache.
moustache is
Yeah,
just
it's just
so attention grabbing.
I reckon that he might not have always had the moustache. Like, I think he probably started with it, ended with it, and it was there in the middle. But there might have been points where he
So
went babyface.
There's going to be some Mandela
Totally.
effect
Yeah.
throughout
yeah,
this
definitely.
podcast as well.
Definitely.
Which is why I like this is our we're going to treat this like scientists. We're thinking about we're
Mhm.
theorizing
Yeah.
now, and then we're going to
Mm.
find the evidence, follow
Mhm.
the evidence to the conclusion.
Mhm.
And we
Well,
can't
yeah.
make it what we want it to be because that's bad science, right? We've got to kind of just take it as it is.
And I don't want to underplay the amount of Curiosity Show I watched because it was a lot. But I will say that when I saw him in the bank and he had the moustache, I'm glad because if he didn't, I might not have recognized him.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
but he does look different than when I would have last
Of
seen
course.
him on TV because
course.
it stopped in the 90s, which is a crying shame. But I will say one more thing about meeting him in the bank. I was dazzled. He had every last bit of the sort of aura of a really, really well respected school principal or uncle.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
he really...
Well, he's got all that knowledge as well in his
Mm-hmm.
head, all this wisdom. You know, he's like this must have been how in the distant past, like sages and people like that were kind of revered and also kind of feared a little by society, where they were, this person knows things. They know all the secrets. They're the keepers of wisdom. So you're going to be, you slap a moustache on top of that.
Yeah.
It's hypnotic.
100%.
And what was his response when you laid compliments on him?
Now this is going back many years. Like, so this would have been like at least 12 years ago.
That's
I
nothing
think.
for you.
I
You've got
bet
this
he
steel trap
remembers.
memory.
He probably
The episodes
would,
from
but he's
50
Dean
years
Hutton.
ago.
He's
I thought you were going to say he
He's-
remembers meeting Brennan.
Oh,
It's
that
like,
wouldn't surprise me as well.
I was so here we go. We got to get impressions going as well. His voice had a real authority, but also just a kind of a very Aussie, casual. It's this is just science, you know.
Do you want to hear my Dean Hutton?
Yes,
I've got. I don't know if I haven't warmed up, but. So, what exactly is the Ames window illusion? Well, I'm glad you asked.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
Thank
kudos.
that you just transported us back. About
thank you.
30 years.
Nobody ever watch any. No, actually do. I was going to say don't watch any shows so that you hold that in the memory as really good and don't have it disproven as good. But no, as much as I like to make people believe that I'm good at that, I would prefer you go and watch all their YouTube videos.
Well, no, we're going to be watching them.
We're going to be watching
It's
them.
gonna get
We're
even
going to watch
better.
them together.
Listeners can go and do their own research, but we're here to sort of discover it as well. So, yeah, I was thinking he was saying, I was in the bank and I met this lovely young fella, Brendan Williams.
Oh boy, can you imagine? That'd be too much. If Dean Hutton remembered me.
I feel like teachers often say they remember when their pupils as adults come up to them and say similar sorts of things. Thanks for educating me. Thanks for getting me on my path, whatever. And I feel like teachers remember that. So I feel like
I also saw Mr. Civetta, our Italian teacher, in the bank. And he
had you seen him since school?
I hadn't seen him since school,
Ooh.
and I recognized him only because he was. I keep divulging information about what they were doing, but no, nothing too much. I mean, I think people go in and make deposits into business accounts. I don't think that's giving too much away.
He was in rags. The security guard to throw him out.
But he came
Don't you
in.
come back? I just picture your bank as being like the bank from It's a Wonderful Life. Very sort of like old-fashioned, black and white. Mr. Potter in a wheelchair just chasing people out.
And
don't you come back!
But Mr. Civetta came in and he had a letter with a letterhead with bank details on it. And so I might not have recognized it unless it had the Gleason College letterhead on there. And so I went, oh, that's Gleason College letterhead. That's where I went to school. And I looked up and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Mr. Civetta. And he went, and this is an even more niche impression than Dean Hutton. But
I'm here for it.
He came in and he went and he said, yes, hello. Would you please place this amount of money into this account here? And he was like very
very specific hand action.
Yeah.
There.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can confirm that was accurate.
And
You looked
and
like
he
you
just
were
said,
playing an organ that had multiple keyboards in different angles, and
that's how I remember him. But I just went, excuse me, are you? And this is the great bit when you're an adult and you get to like see yourself as I said, are you Nicholas Civetta? Oh, never in my life would I have said, are you like
first
Nicholas?
name, yeah.
I said, are you Nicholas Civetta? And he goes, I am. I said, oh, I'm. And my sister was one of his favorite students because they went to Italy together on like this like the trip with the school. So I knew that he would remember Claire. And I said, oh, I'm Claire's younger brother. Claire Williams' younger brother, Brendan. You were my Italian teacher. And I kid you not, he went, Mamma mia, Brendan, how are you? And he shook my hand, and I just could not believe I got a Mamma mia from Mr. Civetta, my Italian
spat
teacher.
the spaghetti out of his mouth.
It was that was really great too. So I met lots of wonderful teacher-like influences in my life. Well,
So many
while
people
working
from
in
your
the bank.
past coming through the bank.
Yeah.
And what's the power, relationship? Because I guess, when you meet your teachers as an adult outside of school, then all right, you're grown up now. So, but there's still that intimidation factor. But then you're the bank. So does bank trump teacher when it comes to sort of, now you the authority figure?
I definitely had more power in that situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
But see, I'm too much of a goody two shoes. I didn't abuse it. Didn't even occur to me.
I didn't have that kind. I worked in a library. I remember when I was working at the Burnside Library, Peter Coombe came in.
Oh, that slaps. That's awesome.
And he would come
Another
in.
Adelaidean legend.
Absolutely.
Of our childhood.
Yeah. And I got to actually help him out. He was he was doing songs and stuff with the kids. And he's like, I need this book. Needed one of the giant kids' books. I'll help you with that. Peter? Can I call you Peter? Lovely guy, yeah.
Amazing. Our mutual friend Martin Vanderwire.
I do. From another hit podcast.
Yes, from another hit podcast.
Quick plug.
The Hammerbarn Project. That's the Hammerbarn Project. All things Bluey. We discuss the Australian children's television program Bluey.
All good bookstores.
All good bookstores.
What's the odd Monty Python one? Was I find it at all good bookstores and the very odd shoe shop?
That's great. I don't know that one. Martin's wife's mum's partner grew up down the street from Peter Coombe. So there you go. That's the most Adelaidean thing I'll say today.
Kids washing their face in orange juice and belly flopping in pizzas all over the place
and whatnot, and frying eggs on slippery dips.
My kids still listen to that, so that's got to be going on. Now, did he start in the 70s? Or
that's a great question.
Definitely doing the 80s?
I reckon definitely 80s. You never know.
So we were watching back to the Curiosity show. So we were watching the Curiosity show in the 90s.
Yeah, I would say so.
Early 90s.
I reckon I was catching it at the tail end of the 80s.
Right.
Because I was born in 84. So we would live. I have memories of watching it on the little CRT TV in the corner of our Borkham Hills house. Yep. And that was like 88, 89.
Yeah.
And so I reckon I was watching it with my older brother Ryan then.
Have you gone back and watched anything on a TV that was the size of TVs that we used to watch as like with screens that are smaller than laptop screens?
No.
Slightly bigger than like an iPad screen.
There is a cool filter that you can put on the NES emulator that I've got, where it looks like a CRT TV, but it's not.
They're astonishingly small.
Yeah,
you think about watching like Star Wars and Lawrence of Arabia on a Friday night on these little TV sets that were like everything's in inches, so it would have been like 12-inch or like 10-inch TV sets.
And you know what always makes me think of that? Whenever I'm playing like a modern computer game or video game, and of course it's all super high def, like ultra high definition, so all the text for all the credits and everything, it's all so small.
Yeah.
Like you start like Breath of the Wild and it comes up and it's like Nintendo Presents, and it's taking up such a small fraction of the screen. I just think a CRT wouldn't be able to handle this at all. It would just be a little blip.
It's so bizarre that those images were so massive in my head when I remembered them, because if it showed me like a desert in Star Wars, that was as big as the whole universe. Or whatever.
I think it's too. I think this text is too small. They're showing off. They're like, look what we can do now. Yeah, and I can remember watching VHS copies of like Con Air, and it wasn't Con Air. It was The Rock. Doesn't matter.
Perfect.
But I remember I was around at my friend's house when we were watching a hired VHS of The Rock, and his TV was a kind of askew, and the credits were coming up, and I can remember not being able to read it even then. Like they were having a hard time handling it. Yeah,
Nicholas Cage. Who was it?
Cake?
Who was it?
I can remember it not being able to handle the text at the size it was, and that would have been huge compared to what they get away with now.
I find it very interesting that some games will come out with remasters many years later where they've, pumped up the graphics or make it at least work on high def TVs or screens. And I feel, but the game remains the same usually. And I feel like a common comment, and I feel the same, is like, you're like, oh yeah, now I get to play it the way I remember it feeling.
Like the GoldenEye remake is like high res, and then you think, this looks different, but then you look at the actual original and you're like, ooh. So what's the word? Polygonal?
Yeah.
And there's some though where it's super satisfying to play something old where it just holds up just as you remember it like now. And for me, one of them is the old Sherlock Holmes game. I don't know if you remember that. We got one of the first CD-ROM games. I think we got. It was like Sherlock Holmes
and the Rose
Tattoo.
Yep.
And I think it was one of the first games where they recorded video in real life of real actors, and then I'm not sure what the word would be, like, rotoscoped it into the
like
screen,
that, yeah.
into the game engine. So the backgrounds were all illustrated or drawn, and then all the people, which was quite funny at times because they'd be standing still on the screen, and then you'd go to move your Sherlock Holmes character, and he would just like jump into his animation sort of video. But going back and playing that, I was like, this is exactly the way I'd want to play. I wouldn't want to play a remastered version of this.
Yeah, sure.
And there are precious few things where you can go back and revisit them, and they feel the same.
Yeah.
And so, I've never seen the Curiosity Show, but I'm curious whether that's what the feeling you're going to have, or whether someone coming to it for the first time, whether it will. I'm a sucker for things. I don't want to say nostalgic because I'm not someone who likes being sort of fed nostalgia in new movies and TV shows and things like that. But things that can just somehow genuinely capture an old feeling.
Yeah.
I hope in watching this, that's what I'm going to feel. A feel of the 90s.
Because I was thinking about it after you mentioned it the other day, and thinking, what is there like cultural equivalence? And it's very, in my mind, it's very quaint and parochial, but it's in the spirit of, because it's about like science and discovery and learning. It's like, I was thinking of Carl Sagan, in the
very
70s.
Much so.
That was obviously in a much grander sort of scale and scope and things like that. But Carl Sagan had that really sweet, gentle, but enthusiastic kind of desire to want to communicate science and learning. But Dean Hutton, in my mind, is like, so Carl Sagan is kind of impassioned.
Yeah.
And he also had a really characteristic voice as well, like somehow kind of intertwines with just the wisdom and the knowledge that he's bringing.
Yes. Yeah.
The way what's something he would talk about, like, you know what I'm talking about. You're smiling because you're hearing the voice in your head.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, it's like when you say like billions and billions of light years away. And
like fundamental truth. Yeah.
Whereas Dean Hutton, I feel like you did it so well before, but there's something in his voice that's just very, this is not complex, people. This is all right. This
in your everyday home.
You can understand this.
Yeah. And I think like because it was so it was kind of casual in that sense. You could be forgiven for thinking that they didn't know exactly what they were doing, which I suspect that they did. And because I've heard them sort of talk about how the segments were a certain length because they found out that you might not be able to hang on to a certain age bracket's attention for much longer than that, and so they did the X amount of segments of X length, and it was all very calculated. But you can just tell that there's something genuine about their presentation, I think, because they just so obviously are interested in these things. Like, we've spoken a lot about like Dean Hutton, but Rob Morrison, who shared an equal presentation role, he's like really, really into like maritime history, and so I think he still like is a big donor and supporter of the Maritime Museum, and he was often doing segments about ships and knots and like
perfect.
And so he's like such a like wealth of knowledge of all like that, all the lore of ships and things like that.
Have you revisited clips since you've gotten into?
I have actually. I didn't realize that aspect of it when I was a kid, but watching it back, I'm just like, wow, Rob really knows his stuff about all these boats. And he was talking about windlasses and Chinese windlasses and how they I think the Chinese windlass is like a different way of frictioning a rope on like a bar, and then all these how they calculated distance before they'd like drop something behind, I forget what it's called, but they'd drop something behind the boat and they'd be able to count how many times it spun around. It gave you a really accurate measurement of how far a boat had sailed, just all that sort of stuff. And you could just tell by looking at these men that this is just exactly what they would be talking about if there wasn't a camera on them. And that's what I think that really comes across.
I'm really curious because for me, probably timing wise, I'm a few years younger than both of you. So Mythbusters, came out
that's a big one. Yeah,
that was important in my life, and that was probably there was a spiritual successor in some ways, and another Australian production, I suppose.
Yeah,
even though it had US based hosts, but that Jamie and Adam on that show, and then the secondary members in that, it wasn't like acutely American based, but they did do a lot of myth testing on movies and Hollywood movies and things like that. So what you said before, I didn't realize the Curiosity Show had such an Australian flavor specifically, and I'm kind of excited to see that. I think that's really cool.
Wait, did you say Mythbusters is an Australian production?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. The production team was all in Sydney, I think.
Yeah, so they used to send all the footage over to Australia, and they'd cut it together and.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So they shot it in the US.
Shot it in San Francisco. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Australia's got a pretty good history of science. So I don't know, like it was on ABC, the Curiosity Show, wasn't it?
Yes.
Which is our Australian broadcaster, which I'm always trying to figure out what the equivalent. So like in the US, there's like PBS, is like the public broadcasting. And I guess that's as close to the ABC. I mean, we've got the ABC and we've got SBS. Yeah. SBS is the special PBS broadcasting service.
And Sesame Street was on CBS, wasn't it? And then NBC.
Was it, or was it PBS?
I think it was PBS.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Because I think CBS was another one of the actual networks, like ABC, and then PBS. Because the other one is like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is like, that was PBS. That was the American one. We didn't get a lot of that kind of stuff in Australia, but having like when they made the Tom Hanks movie and there was the documentary and stuff came out, and like pop culturally, like Mr. Rogers kind of re-emerged in like memes and things a few years back, same as like who's the artist, what's his name, Bob Ross. And then they did the doco about him as well, and then Carl Sagan also.
They rebooted Cosmos with,
which is really good.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Really, really awesome. The second season's
Neil deGrasse Tyson is perfect for that because he's got that sort of like that performance aspect, that kind of like the voice that kind of
he's got a lot of gravity. If you want to pick a physics word, an astrophysics word. But modern, like they're all very polished. Like it's a different thing. When you were talking about Mythbusters as being like a spiritual successor.
Yeah.
And you were talking about, Brendan, the polish that they did or didn't have, and the tightness that they had to get it done in this amount of time. So that you have to be you have to know science for starters. Like you have to be smart, like, and that level of book smart. But then you have to be a good teacher. Like, you can have a person who can kind of make students or make kids like interested and engaged. Then you also have to have like the technical ability to be able to present on camera, because just because you know the science doesn't make you a good teacher. Just because you know the science and you can teach doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it in front of camera as well.
Yeah.
And then in the 70s, it's like, we overestimate now how much everyone's used to being on camera.
Yeah.
Like kids and teenagers now are camera ready.
Yeah.
24/7. They can pull out a phone and they can snap into like camera mode and be prepared to like talk and present and all that sort of stuff.
Almost too camera ready.
Yeah. So it's a pretty rare set of skills that we're going to discover. Should we watch a clip?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
I'm always ready.
We're going to make our way through all of the Curiosity Show. What do you reckon for this is sort of our pilot episode. Let's just look up the first thing that comes up.
Okay.
We look up a Curiosity Show, and I think there's probably going to be clips. I don't think we're going to get full episodes at this stage. I think it's going to be so the first thing that comes up, 1972, the Curiosity Show, 19 seasons. It's going to be a long podcast. There is one, a complete Curiosity Show episode. We won't watch a full episode tonight. Welcome to the Curiosity Show YouTube channel. But this is from 11 years ago. We'll be uploading more segments. Is that... Oh, that's not the opening titles of the extra thing. All right, let's pick this first one. Optical Illusions, Brain Tricks.
I see.
So we're going to have to do some describing.
I love it all.
It's a podcast. All right. Oh, ads. We'll figure something out about that.
Yes. Excellent.
perfect. I'm going to do a lot of stop-start, but that was just the
Ding,
opening
ding, ding,
banjo
ding, ding.
sting.
Look at these 3 coins that I have between thumb and forefinger. I'm swiveling them around, balancing that centre one between the other 2. Can you see that? You think you could do it? Well, keep watching them carefully as I slow them down and stop. Not 3 at all, only 2. In fact, it's all a bit of a trick that your eyes and brains play on you. What happens is you're lagging behind a little bit. You're seeing one coin where it was just a moment ago when it's still moved into this position here. All the time you're lagging a little bit behind. And your eyes and brains often play tricks on you. They're called optical illusions. You may have seen this one in a book sometime.
So, hang on.
Illusion.
I did not have a memory of like magic tricks and that being part of like the Curiosity Show.
Yeah, they do like magic tricks and puzzles, and they always say at the end, they're like, "Try it on your friends." And
I remember that. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. And so it was like, this is what kind of like fascinates me about it. Going back to it and watching it now, I just think, how did they get it was my interests as a kid shaped by this, or did they just get me so right when they were making this show? Because me and my brother, this is the stuff we used to do. We used to just love all that stuff, the coin tricks and the magic tricks and just the like drawing puzzles and brain teasers, but then just science experiments as well, and just technology knowledge and stuff.
So a bunch of visuals to unpack here. So we must be in the 1970s. We've got a kind of a weird wood paneled, like sort of mustard yellow background there with kind of abstract curvy shapes, but it's like when they do parodies now of like Laugh-In or those old 70s shows of it's all stuff that you'd see in parodies now. It's like an Austin Powers
big
background, but muted.
I would venture to say that those plywood shapes are actually like fat sort of 70s style text question marks. I think they're all the Curiosity Show question mark. Big question mark motif.
We just zoomed in a little much to be able to sort of make out.
I get you. I can see what you're saying here. Dean Hutton,
sporting a moustache.
Yeah, but now
a modest
the moustache. I'm getting more like Charles Bronson vibes from this Dean Hutton.
I can see it.
Than kind of Tom Selleck. There's not the bushiness that I'm thinking there. This freeze frame we've got is very Charles Bronson. but not the little squinty eyes. He's got kind of more sleepy eyes, maybe because of just how I paused it. But nice big round eyes.
He's almost got a bit of Dennis Lilly about him. I always
think.
Maybe it's the 70s thing that goes.
Did all men just then like who looked like that look like cricketers?
Yeah, I think so.
That haircut, sort of like the thick on top and thick on the sides. And probably thick at the back. Can't really see it,
which I kept right through to the 90s. Maybe I just modeled my look on Dean Hutton, like subconsciously.
Sure I've seen you wear a shirt like this.
Well, this shirt would be in fashion now. This is very fashionable. This is kind of like
sleeve.
Is that a collar or a hood? No, it's a collar, isn't it?
Collar?
Yeah, I would say so.
It's like a long sleeve polo or something like that, but with a bit of a two-tone, sort of nice grey and white sort of little pattern.
I can see him at a barbecue. I don't know. Like men who look like that, I just assume they were all at backyard barbecues.
He's pretty trim.
Yeah.
He's fit. He's
looking all right. He's fit shirt as well.
Yeah, that's it.
I would like that.
So this will have to be a question that's going to come up, and I don't know if it's to open right in episode 1. But like, is Dean Hutton a sex symbol? Because there's a certain kind of masculinity that you sort of get from the just the very calm confidence of a guy who's going to teach you a thing or two, right?
Well, already I was going to mention the calm way in which he started speaking, and then the very specific emphasis on the key words that he wanted to get across. So this was an optical illusion, and he really clearly said eyes and brains. And he really emphasized those words. And I thought, already he's hitting the key words. And I think he could just say some words to me, some of my trigger words that would just get me in the mood. And
wedding ring. So he's married back in the 70s, I'm assuming.
Lucky lady.
Unless that's a camera thing. Unless it's just kind of, we don't want fan mail getting sent into the ABC. So it's, how a bartender or someone might wear a wedding ring that's just a fake.
I see.
Well, this is going to be, so this podcast will be part mystery, sort of
what else don't we know
crime.
about Dean?
We're going to be like investigating, but a happy true crime. It's a
that's
true.
the real curiosity.
That's right.
I literally just put Curiosity Show into Google, and
Yep.
and the name Dean Hutton came up, and I did not realize for all these years that Dean was spelt with an E on the end.
Yes.
Deane.
Yeah, I think I
did
did
not know
know that only because I've met him when he came
Yes.
to our school. You said he did
Yep.
visit our school.
Yep.
I did get. It was probably the first autograph I ever got from anyone.
Cool.
And that's I'm quite proud of that.
Do you still have it?
I reckon I've still got it sitting somewhere in a storage unit in a box
Mhm.
in a folder, pristine. That'll be that's got to be
We'll
worth
get
something.
that out. Yeah.
All right. So he's done this little coin trick, which I didn't quite track, but I think I was processing so much of just the whole.
Another interesting thought. I'm pretty sure I've seen this exact illusion on, and I don't have the TikTok app myself, but on an Instagram repost of a TikTok, and there's exactly the sort of thing that you'll see come up on your
I was
feed.
going to
now,
ask, the
which is
kids
just
still
like
into magic and stuff
YouTube
now. Like
Shorts is full of this sort of thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, cool. Because magic kits and things like that were like a thing. I remember, like you're getting a magic kit for your birthday in like the 90s and something. And I never had the discipline because it's just practice. You got to just practice and practice and practice. But the idea of it was always just so exciting. Yeah. All right.
Illusions. You may have seen this one in a book sometime. It's another optical illusion.
Oh, so the vase and the faces.
Yep.
Oh, I see a white vase on a black background. Good. Some of you are saying, oh, I can see something else as well. Look carefully, particularly in the center of the picture. You may notice two faces staring at each other. Black silhouettes on a white background. Now, can you see both of those pictures, the vase and the faces? Well, what I want you to do now is just focus on one of them. Just concentrate on the vase. Don't let yourself see the faces. Can you do that? Almost certainly not. The faces keep intruding. The pictures keep flipping backwards and forwards from one another. Our eyes and brains play tricks on us all the time. Because when you see something, you don't just see it with your eyes. It's true that your eyes form little images in the backs of them, the retinas, and then messages are sent to the brain. But the brain, in turn, is putting together, with that new information coming back, all sorts of memories from the past, and also it's comparing what you're seeing in the center with what's on the outside as well. Here's another optical illusion. Have a look at this one.
So now we got the
witch slash fancy lady.
I used to love this when I was a kid.
Yeah,
this sort
yeah.
of stuff.
Probably saying an old woman, and others saying a young woman. In fact, they're both there. Can you see them both? Maybe not. You can see the young woman. Let's first of all have a look at her. I'll come into the picture as a ghost and show you the young woman.
Oh, so this is a good effect for the 70s.
Yeah, they were at the head of their game with like the technology that would have been available to people in Adelaide studios in the 70s.
This makes me think of a weather person.
I probably used this equipment because we pretty much had all the ABC's old
Yeah,
1970s
right.
film equipment when I went to film school in Adelaide.
Now, what about the old woman? You think you can see her? Maybe she's
Now, I say ABC,
I'll come in as a ghost again.
but it might have been at the Channel 7 studios that they did it.
Ah.
I don't know.
Is looking down. This is her nose this time. There it is, quite a large nose.
It's so good that they're doing this as well. Like he's kind of like
So
put a transparency on so that he can point at the illusion.
So this is like a weather presenter
Yeah,
having to
yeah,
like
yeah.
look at the monitor off screen, and he's
Yeah.
moving his hand.
My eyes would never fool me. My brain would never fool me with a simple picture. What about squares on rectangles? That's fairly simple.
All right. So
Have
he's
a look
got
at these two.
a white rectangle with a black square in it.
A black square on a white background and a white square on a black background.
That's what you just said.
And you are right. It's definitely question marks in the background there.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
The white one is
That
larger.
big fat
You might
sort
say,
of,
"Oh,
not
that's a
Comic
wonder where that
Sans,
is.
what kind of...
The white one is much larger. And it certainly looks that way, doesn't it? But what I can do is pick them up. I'm only stuck down with a piece of glue.
Now he's pulled off the actual coloured squares on top of the opposite coloured backgrounds, and he's holding them right against each other so we can see.
Because I cut them out together. And yet when you look at them, you're comparing them not only with each other, but also with the backgrounds as well.
So nowadays, this all has to be like
A fight.
99% of people get this
Yeah,
wrong, or
yeah.
only for IQ greater than 165 will get this.
Yeah.
You have a grey here and a grey there. Which of the two greys is darker? You might say, oh, no doubt about it. That one is quite a dark grey. This one is a very light grey. But you've probably guessed it already, haven't you? If I take them off and look at them side by side, they are in fact identical greys. I cut them from the same sheet.
I love that. You've probably guessed it already, haven't you? You're like,
You're not
They really take you along the way.
Yeah.
They take you with them.
The backgrounds. And the white background tells you this is a dark grey.
Bit of product in that hair. Getting a nice shine on top there. That's got a bit of a... it's like a big... I mean, it's you can use this as a joke sometimes, but it's almost Lego hair, isn't it? It's almost a click-on Lego hair in terms of
look.
sheen and consistency.
Well, did Lego base their people on? Did they build them in the 70s? So that's why they've just.
How far back does Lego go?
That's a good question as well.
This is going to be a cocktail of nostalgia and reminiscence and rediscovering old pleasures.
You made a good point, Ben, with the nowadays with the clips. If you was to see an optical illusion in a online short video, it would be 99% of people get this wrong, or it's like, do you see this or do you see that? And it's like people have got to fight over whether it's the white dress or the whatever that dress color thing was.
Yeah.
But I think the spirit in which Dean is speaking there is very much like what I get from watching Penn and Teller magic tricks, where they sort of, there is an element of magic and they can still be either tricking you, because that's sort of what magic is about, but they're quite happy to show you what's going on, because both the storytelling and the sort of ingenuity of it, and sometimes the simplicity of it, is what's can add to the magic. Yeah. And I think with science, that's doubly so. There is so much about nature and science that it already is so beautiful and amazing that we can just be taken for the ride. And it's with earnestness, and you're not being tricked here. It's like that. Yeah. And Brendan, you pointed out you may have already noticed. It's you're in there with him. You're
curiosity is the right word. It's not like they're not trying to blow your mind, although, that will probably happen when you're a kid and you are going to look at it and go, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But you're also watching this probably in a time where you can't record it on a VCR back in the day, or, just watch it. Well, now you can watch it as a clip, but you're going to sort of watch it once and then it's going to stick in your brain for the rest of your week, and you're going to ask your friends or your parents about it or something like that, and try and figure out what they were talking about. Because magic has gone through all those different evolutions as well. And Penn and Teller are that era of, we're going to tell you that it's not magic. We're going to be honest and say it's not magic, and we would never think it's magic, but you're going to be, your mind's going to be blown just by the fact that it is so interesting and deceptive, and it's more interesting that that it's really happening.
So skillful as well sometimes for them in their case.
And apparently magic, when you go through, I love the history of magic and stuff. I'd love to learn more about the history of magic, but I think when the scientific revolution was happening, people who, you had the history of, there was a lot of blurring of lines over magic and the occult and science, the emergence of science in the kind of 1700s. But one thing I didn't realize is that when science started to kind of emerge as its own discipline, and this idea of evidence and reason and all that kind of stuff actually gave con artists and charlatans and people more credibility, because not everyone understood. There was a thing called science that could distinguish between illusion or scams and kind of reality and evidence-based sort of stuff. But then con artists were able to kind of call their thing science. It's scientifically backed, and suddenly it actually gave all this credence to it. So it's funny how there's different, I think in Houdini's time and stuff, it was kind of illusion and novelty, and people like Houdini, I think, were pretty, Houdini famously didn't like con artists, I think, and people people that would do seances and things like that and claim that they were really talking to dead relatives. They didn't like, there was sort of one branch of magicians that were quite frustrated and annoyed by people that would use that kind of performance art as a way to exploit vulnerable people. And then I don't know, do we still have it now? Because we're in a modern world where there's a lot of bad science and miseducation and all this kind of stuff. David Blaine is very much science is magic is just I'm gonna shove a pin through my arm and I'm probably just gonna do it, and it's gonna be this feat of human, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but that's, hey, we're just going to go wherever it leads us.
Yeah.
So Brendan's got deep memories of this and has revisited it a lot in recent years.
Yeah.
I've got deep memories, but have not probably seen any of this since I was a kid. And you, Tom, have kind of got very little other than just the vague idea of what it is.
Right.
So that's probably one of your first kind of intros into it. So first thoughts, first impressions.
Just nice and simple.
Mm.
I think I'm impressed at the script, if there is one, or if he's just sort of has a rough.
I wonder if he's on
that's a
teleprompter
good
or
question.
cards or something. It was kind of all down the barrel, wasn't it?
Yeah. Didn't get particularly the first bit. I thought was kept really, really simple, and then there was only a few mentions of retinas and sort of the processes going beyond. But and I liked there was a physical aspect as well. It sort of put me in the mind of other Art Attack or these shows where there's at least something physical in front of you. To sort of show you, and even the illusion with the woman, the old woman, young woman, where he does a sort of what I'd describe as weather person superimposed almost over the picture to be able to point at different parts of it. Just really nice little simple but effective. That's what I'd say.
You could watch that now and show that to a kid. It makes sense.
Absolutely.
Definitely old fashioned, but the content still makes sense and the presentation makes sense. And it's kind of no BS. And
I can remember, Tom, actually, the reason why I knew that you would at least be aware of the Curiosity Show is because didn't Dean Hutton come to your school once? And this was like, when would that have been? Because I can remember you telling me a story about his prediction about mobile phones.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been
around
around 95, 96 is when I started in school. Yeah,
they're gonna be 100 times larger and weigh as much as 3 elephants.
Yeah, so I think it was like 95, 96 or something, and he made a prediction or something. I don't want to take your story, but
no, it's fine. And I might not even remember.
There's going to be this thing called 5G, and it's going to give you cancer. Autism rates will skyrocket.
But not because of that. No correlation.
Well, Brendan, you might remember me telling the story better than I remember it myself now, but I do remember the visual of him standing in front of our class and having it must have been late enough in the 90s that there were those really big chunky cell phones. The size of a brick, literally. And he was holding one of them and told us all, he said, and I don't remember what time span he would have said. I don't know if he said 10 years
5
or
years,
5
10
years.
years.
He gave some number though, and then pulled out of his pocket, like his top chest pocket, what I assume was a cardboard little put together that he'd made of a phone that is probably the size. Well, they've all sort of gotten bigger now again, but what we did get to the size of those Nokia 3315s or whatever, that sort of size, with a tiny little screen on it with buttons that he had on there. And I just remember that point in my mind that he predicted that happened, and then while I was still in school, that happened.
And I think I can remember you telling me that story in probably like the late 2000s, so maybe like 2009, 2010, you would have told me that story. So iPhones were definitely around by the time you told me the story, and you said that it was like late 90s. He said that in 5-10 years, I think my recollection was you said every kid in Australia will have a phone with a camera on it.
Oh yeah, right.
And I can remember you thinking, no, what? And like who? I can just remember sitting there in 2010, looking back on when he would have made that prediction, where we were, and just having my mind blown that somebody could have such clarity of the arc of technology and the trajectory of technology. And I just went, that's my Dean, that's my Curiosity
Show.
The
CSIRO was sort of working on like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Which one did they work on? Wi-Fi technology and stuff. So I guess Australian scientists, and he would have been involved, I guess, with like the cutting edge of what Australia was sort of doing. There was the Curiosity Show, and then he would appear on Hey Hey It's Saturday.
Yes, he was. Absolutely.
What I got even clearer memories because I would have been older by that point, and he'd come on, and that I've got such clear memories of being summoned from like the other end of the house.
Yeah.
If it was an episode of Man, Dean Hutton's on Hey Hey It's Saturday, because I was a little bit, I could take or leave Hey Hey It's Saturday.
Yeah.
But if Dean Hutton was on,
big time. Yeah.
down the hall, find
yeah.
a spot on the couch. It was very exciting stuff. I remember one where they did a whole room of mouse traps with ping pong balls on them to demonstrate a chain reaction. He was talking about like a chemical chain reaction. And they did a little one in like a fish tank in the studio, and they said, but what about like a big one? And they went into like a giant room filled with them all.
Good.
They put even safety goggles on, and
that makes me think of Mythbusters as well. That idea of stepping up scale to show things small scale and big scale. Love that as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Back to the mobile phone thing. It's interesting as well that it's not just a prediction on the improvement of a specific technology, but the idea of having a camera on your phone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if when he predicted that maybe part of my disbelief was because to a kid, to a 6-year-old kid, the idea of having a camera on your phone made no sense. Like probably at that age, I was thinking like of that episode of Flight of the Conchords where they just like tape a camera to a phone, so it's both a camera and a phone. Because that's probably how I thought of it.
It is so wild that like kids now, they're born with the phone in their hand pretty much. But like I remember Inspector Gadget, like Penny would have like a watch that she could like talk into. Right. I remember, what were the like TV shows where there were gadgets and things? Like James Bond always had like, gadgets.
Yeah.
And some kind of communication device. I think in Inspector Gadget, she also had like a computer book.
Yeah, she had a book,
I would make a little computer book, which is essentially like the laptop like computer that you'd have now.
Star Trek.
Yeah,
or
Star Trek. I never really...
Stargate.
Stargate, had a bit of that science fiction technology. And what other shows that had like, there was a few of those kind of, MacGyver always made stuff, didn't he? But what was there was some of those real kind of B grade sort of wonky TV, like sci-fi TV shows, maybe like Sliders or those kind of shows.
Sliders.
Where they'd have something and that was about as close as you got to a piece of technology.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's so cool. And then now it's everything you could think of.
Yeah,
is just kind of there.
Yeah.
So we need a name for this podcast, which by the time this episode of the podcast goes out, presumably we'll put it out with whatever name we're going to come up with.
Yeah.
So I think we need to figure out a name. And I'm going to guess that there's going to just be so many other podcasts these days that are going to steal all our names. So this is going to take a bit of doing. So brainstorm. All right. So curiosity is a good word.
Yes.
But there's no chance that there's not going to be a curiosity podcast. Let's have a look. Curiosity. Oh, the Discovery Channel has the Curiosity Weekly podcast. Well, that sounds pretty good. Hosted by Dr. Samantha Yaman. And this is also like what level at which we're a brand new podcast that nobody knows about. So at what level do we go, it doesn't matter if we also use that podcast name because they're also... I think the Discovery Channel's weekly podcast looks pretty legit. So do we go down the path of curiosity or do we go something else?
I think we could bounce around the name Curiosity, but I hope you don't mind. I went ahead and just looked on Wikipedia because I just wanted to look at a few things about the Curiosity Show. I don't know if that's too early to get into.
No, let's do it. Let's get into some history.
To answer your question about which channel, TV channel it was on Channel 9.
Channel 9, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was an actual broadcast show.
Yeah.
Well, the history bit is short enough.
I
might just read it because there is also a name in there that may or may not be interesting for us.
Ooh, okay.
A working title for the show.
Ooh.
So... what I do also like is that it was produced by Banksia Productions, which
yes, I remember them. They did other something else.
Did they do the Book Place? Or
maybe
it's a non-clickable link, so I can't check.
Dang it!
I just needed to read ahead to the history thing. Banksia Productions produced the popular children's series "Here's Humphrey" from 1965.
Yeah,
so direct link
65.
from Humphrey to Dean Hutton.
That was Here's Humphrey from 1965. Yep. The company planned to add some science segments in 1971 and sought assistance from the South Australian Institute of Technology. Rob Morrison and Dean Hutton were selected as presenters, and the segments were introduced as Humphrey B. Bear's Curiosity Show.
So Curiosity Show is a spin-off of Humphrey.
Correct.
That's already blowing my mind.
I think I can remember reading into that, but I had forgotten. Yeah.
So Curiosity Show is like the Mork and Mindy of Happy Days.
Yeah.
So I've done Happy Days, Mork and Mindy, Charles Bronson.
Well done.
Do any of these references mean anything to you at all, Tom?
I've seen a couple episodes of Mork and Mindy.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because they're not even of my own time. That's just how
you've got some old.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the Conan in you.
Yeah.
All his references are from like shows from the 20s.
Yeah.
That were just in. Like,
I don't know any music from beyond 1982, and I don't know any like TV or pop culture references from beyond. Yeah,
that's right. I'll bring the youth factor. I'll be scrabbling to try to hold on to any of the references.
Well, that must be nice for you to be like the young person, because you know. There's got to be circles where you're definitely the outside, not the in hip one. I mean, you're a pretty cool dude, but at least in this group, you're the in touch young person.
Yeah. I'm a tech guy. But I'm just going to go ahead to the next sentence because it says so they agreed to produce a spin-off series. Planning commenced with the working title The F Show.
The F Show.
I don't know why that was.
There you go. The F Show. The F Show.
Could you even imagine what the F stood for?
There's gonna be an episode about that.
Is there an answer to what the F stood for on the Wikipedia article?
No.
Wow.
So we get to brainstorm. We get to imagine.
And so it ran 1972 to 1980 as a 60-minute show, and then 1981 to 1990 as a half-hour show.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The year I was
Curiosity Show.
Ooh.
Then it turned into Mad Max Furiosa.
Yeah, Mad Max Curious.
Mad Max is also a spin-off of Humphrey. The number of things you didn't realize came from Humphrey.
I'm learning so much.
So what was the word? Oh, Banksia. Was that the word you thought?
Well, no, I just saw that the working title was F Show. So I was trying to go with something about the F Show. But
do I Google the F Show?
I think
the F Show?
I do like the word curiosity though.
The F Show. This is just raising more questions. The first thing that came up was a YouTube channel. Byline of which says the South African financial services provider disguised financial literacy within a hilarious stand-up comedy show.
Whoa. There you go.
That can't be. Is that what this is? Oh, well, that's going to be a rabbit hole for the next episode, I think.
Nice. What are the main things you think of when you think Curiosity Show? Because when I think of Dean Hutton, at least, and those my science experiences, those were like a table balancing on balloons. I think liquid nitrogen.
Yes.
I think the mouse traps.
Yeah.
There's not actually a prominent podcast called The F Show.
Okay.
There's The F Word. There's F It. There's The F and F Show. There's WTF with Mark Maron.
Look,
F the Nice Guys. What the F was that?
I kind of dig The F Show, like the heritage of it. I don't know.
And then somehow Conversations with Richard Feidler comes up as well.
Oh man, now there's a show. Boy, that's great as well.
Why does The F Show come up?
I wonder if Rob or Dean had ever been on Conversations with Richard Feidler. That would make a lot of sense. Or vice versa.
There's going to be some daisy chains of Australian culture that comes in with this. But now I'm worried about this financial literacy services place disguised as a. What, is that
the kind of person you want to mess with?
I
do like this. Apparently,
my daughter's school sent out a letter saying, "Hi parents, we've introduced a lunch card system. Get a card for your child and load some money in it for their tuck." So because I'm a person who likes to budget and plan ahead,
right,
I loaded 1,000 rand. Yes. I've been doing well.
Isn't it funny that he said for their tuck, meaning like for their food? And so you imagine it's the tuck shop, and we used to call it a tuck shop at primary school when you go to like the cafeteria, the tuck shop. But I've never said tuck as in food
on its own. Yeah,
on its own. But I did call it a tuck shop.
Tucker.
Yeah.
I do think this is a guy doing stand-up comedy but teaching financial literacy in South Africa.
That's great.
As described.
It does what it says on the tin.
His name's
passionate.
Mfo Pops. Mfo Pops. All right.
There is another name. This is the name of a book that Hutton and Morrison wrote together, but they wrote it all one word: Super Mind Stretches.
Super Mind Stretches.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool as well.
Super Mind Stretches. Dean Hutton. Super Mind Stretches, 1980 Curiosity Show. On eBay, $75 out of stock.
A bargain. Cheap at twice the price.
So, Super Mind Stretches. I mean, the F Show, I think I felt more comfortable in just because it doesn't make us seem like we're Super Mind Stretches. But Super Mind Stretches is pretty great.
My mind does feel super stretched, but I don't know if that's something you want to advertise.
Super Mind Stretches. Super Mind Stretches. That's cool.
The F Show, I don't hate it.
Maybe that's our spin-off, though. I definitely want to understand more about the F Show. What if we called ourselves the F Show and then found out the horrible reason why they did not end up calling it the F Show, though? And then we'd sort of branded with that.
Then we changed to the Curiosity Show. That's right. Following the footsteps.
That's the... Oh, books by Dean W. Hutton. Never knew about the middle initial. The mysteries are just coming up.
The W Show.
The W Show. You could be my WW. Super Mind Stretches.
You're a WW.
See, this is also, we've got a triumvirate here, haven't we? So it's not like, there's a, it's like it can be 2 votes or it can be, or do we always go unanimous?
The Curiosity Show.
Yeah, we don't have an analog, do we? Did they have a third? I wonder if they ever had a ring in.
Yeah.
Well, Humphrey, I guess.
Yeah.
Not the most talkative.
The Humphrey Show.
Humphrey didn't talk, did he?
No.
No. So we wouldn't be a good podcast guest, would he?
No, he wouldn't.
Or she. Was Humphrey definitely male? Or Humphrey?
Was it ever addressed? No, I'm pretty sure he was.
Could be a they. Bloke. Well, they didn't wear any pants, did they? Just a kind of a green vest
and hat.
Yeah,
I'm
the
sure.
Sort of tartan.
I'm sure.
Tie.
I'm sure he had he/him pronouns. I think from what I remember of the show, didn't he say goodbye, or was that Fat Cat? Fat Cat said goodnight to the kids at 6 p.m. He came on the TV and said goodnight to the kids. My brother would not go to bed
until that's right. You didn't
say goodnight.
Yeah, that used to be a thing, wasn't it? And then the test card came on.
Yeah.
Now we're really going back.
Yeah, the test pattern. That's the stuff.
Is like, was there was it like, are you a Humphrey guy or a Fat Cat guy? Is that like a...
Yeah. So Humphrey was obviously Channel 9. Who was Fat Cat? Like, Humphrey Beaver Bear. He was...
Channel 10?
He had some legs, the old Humphrey Beaver Bear.
Humphrey was definitely I think Fat Cat was a sort of a pretender to the throne.
Yeah. Humphrey was around for a long time.
Network 10, then Network 7.
What, Humphrey?
Fat Cat and Friends.
Oh, Fat Cat and Friends, right.
That feels like where's our Humphrey? That feels like a network executive sort of screaming down
we need
the
a
phone.
Humphrey, damn it.
Papers being thrown, you just hear chairs being slammed against the wall.
Tom smiling, we are spot on.
It literally says on the Wikipedia page, the show is similar in concept to 9 networks. He is Humphrey, featuring Humphrey B. Bear. And it's like, I think that's what they want.
Yeah. Packer's got us over a barrel.
Look, they're taking Bear.
We'll just call the show Fat Cat. Stick it right back in his face.
That's funny.
Super Mind Stretches. Welcome to the Super Mind Stretches podcast.
Sounds like we're going to educate, whereas the F Show is like, F it.
Yeah, F Show sounds like we're trying to be edgy. Or
not the F Show.
Yeah. The what? The WTF. The
show for the
NTF.
curious.
The TF show. Super Mind Stretches. All right. So what was Super Mind Stretches? That wasn't an alternate name. That was a book that they wrote.
Yeah.
Very cool.
There was another one called String for Lunch, but I think they did some crafts books as well. I think they're an early
Super
version
Mind
of the show.
Stretches.
String
was a craft
for Lunch
show as well.
is not without its charm.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm looking at... hello. So what's this? So I'm looking at the cover of Super Mind Stretches on this eBay listing. which, by the way, they've laid it out on a very plush rug. I'm not sure. Is that an eBay thing? It's a very kind of, I don't know, like Arctic Fox kind of white plush rug that this faded. It's got that kind of blue that I can only describe as the sort of posters in a coastal seaside town where they've never changed out the posters from the fish and chip shop, and it's like faded all the magenta out of the ink, so you just left with that sort of, I don't know, that duck egg blue kind of like baby blue.
I once left a Cooper's Pale Ale bottle out in the sun for a bit, and it faded really evenly, so it went blue. All the pigment.
So pale ale was green, which green, must be what. Does that got every color? No. What's green? How's green in printing?
In the CMYK or whatever it is.
No, this is blue and yellow, isn't it?
Blue
Cyan
and yellow is green. Yeah.
CMY.
So it faded the yellow out.
Yes.
To make it blue.
To make it blue.
Yeah.
Which would make sense for the spectrum of the sunlight. Does that make sense?
I guess so. Yeah, because I always wonder do you know what I'm talking about when you see faded posters in an old, like a shop that's kind of closed up, but they've left the kind of like the old print in the window. I'm picturing yellow and blue. Is that the colors you end up with? So it would just be the magenta is kind of big.
A lot of the blues, a lot of the greens, a lot of the greens kind of go blue because I know that's what happened with this pale ale bottle. And it was
you're right,
really nice.
So it would be yellow, wouldn't it? And I wonder if it's because like yellow sunlight is doing something, or whether it's glass is doing something. I wonder if
maybe it's just a chemical thing with the pigment and those.
What's our hit rate going to be of asking a question like this, and then there being a curiosity episode clip or episode that explains it to us?
Well, if we set up all the questions now,
So Super Mind Stretchers has got this blue faded cover. Dean Hutton and Rob Morrison, very tiny, very subtle. Names. They're not blowing their own trumpets.
They're very humble men.
Super is in a shiny chrome.
Of course it is.
Sort of Superman font almost, I think. But with like actual like sheens of like, sparkly light coming off the S and the R. And then Mind Stretches is very kind of just...
Does it stretch out a little bit?
A little, like sort of block yellow. But the thing underneath it, though, is like what's going on here underneath. There's a question mark, a faded blue question mark in a sort of...
Here's an idea. What's the history of the question mark? Does the question mark have like a symbolic name, like the symbol of a question mark? Does that have a name or something that we could use as a sort of some sort of title? Because the question mark...
I know that a joint question mark and exclamation mark is called an interrobang. Did you know that?
I did know that.
I'm not. You see, I'm all for all of these suggestions.
Interrobang, I suspect, as a podcast name, has similar problems to the F. What was it? The F show.
The F show.
I think if we had the F show, also known as Interrobang. Interrobang sounds like a kind of a horrible mashup of like an R-rated Guantanamo Bay style interrogation room.
That's us to a T.
Well, there you go. Hey, we don't have to make. We could pick the title and then fit the show around that. It doesn't have to be about the Curiosity Show, I suppose. But considering the tangents we do go on.
Mm-hmm.
The question mark, also known as the interrogation point, query, or eroteme. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Eroteme. I think is Greek for question. Eroteme.
The Aeroteme. See, that just sounds like it's about planes, the show.
Yeah.
And what was it? The interrogation
point.
The interrogation point.
Again,
it's like a Tom Clancy novel or something. This is the Bourne Identity and the interrogation
I would watch
point.
the heck out of that. Cast Harrison Ford and I'm there.
Yeah, it would have been like if he'd stuck around in the Jack Ryan.
Maybe that's the name of his point because he's always pointing.
He is, isn't he?
You find that man. You find this man.
And it would have been like they used to, that was around the era where they'd fit the title of the film somewhere in the dialogue as well.
Yeah.
It's like, these terrorists represent a clear and present danger to the United States. You're missing the point. All right, my point is the interrogation point. We can workshop it. That's the,
We don't need to.
Style, there it is. You got to make the trailer first and then, But there's something weird going on with the title of this book, and I can't tell if this is just an old version of the book and something's happened to it. There's like a raised braille-like pattern, or maybe the texture of like a really absorbent paper towel or something like that. This kind of dappled thing, but I can't figure out what's going on with it. Is that meant to be an optical illusion? There's a sort of
it's kind of look like there's a
faded question mark. Mind you, the question mark is very reminiscent of the question marks in the background of the clip we just watched.
Yes.
So they must. I wonder if they've got some rights over that font or something, because it's like a published by Ashton Scholastic.
Oh, that's the stuff. Remember the Scholastic catalog they used to get?
Yeah, they'd come around the book fair. They'd come around and like
and you do your book orders.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
The Osborne Puzzle Adventure books.
I still have some of the books that I got from those. But yeah, I got a Osborne Puzzle Adventure like one of Indiana Jones and the Curse of Kar. It was like a Agent Arthur style book, but it was. I've still got it somewhere, Ben.
You would have loved that, Ben.
Now here we go. So I'm getting my first look at Rob Morrison for a long time on the back cover of Supermind Stretches.
He's the man.
So this is exactly what I'm thinking. Receding hairline, slightly pointed eyebrows, but the little goatee, the little wizard goatee. As well.
I genuinely don't know who's my favorite out of the two. They both rule.
Here's a throwback. His facial hair, the only other goatee I saw on a regular basis.
He did rock a goatee for a time, didn't he?
The reason I had in my head, did he have longish hair, is because that goatee, the only time I ever saw that goatee was Rob Morrison and the wizard on Puddle Lane, played by Neil Innes, also had the little wizard's goatee. And I reckon I would have seen those around the same time. Those two have just merged in my head as like the same figure. So in my mind, Rob Morrison is a kind of wizard figure living in Puddle Lane with his little puppet dragon, which is not true at all. And a little less Lego Man hair on Dean here. He's I reckon the gel's gone.
They moved with the times.
A little bit looser. The tash is a little bit fuller as well.
There you go, Tom.
And sporting a bit of he's now in a bit of more of a bowling shirt, two-toned, short sleeve. Look at the forearms on him though. He's trim.
He had a wardrobe, that guy.
And the sideburns on Morrison, you were kind of suggesting you can't quite get a real good look at him here, but there's an overhang. They're not shy of a little hair over the ear.
They were hip.
This shot is just more. They haven't even framed the book in this. They're really just showing off the rug that this book is
shag rug.
Well, now I'm just very, very curious. Where's this coming from? Located in Adelaide. Okay, $75.
Yeah. Oh. Get some of that ad money from those ads.
They sell their DVDs on their website and they sign them. You can order signed Curiosity Show DVDs.
We're just going to be in for some of this.
Yeah. Get the unsigned one and hang outside the bank.
It's only a matter of time.
You've been listening to Super Mind Stretches. My name is Ben Crisp.
I'm Tom Crisp.
And I'm Brendan Williams.
And here's one you can try at home. No, what's a good sign-off? I don't know.
I like that one. oh, hang on. Do they have a sign-off?
Next time.
At the end of the show.
Try it on your friends.
Try it on your friends.
So how do we frame that then? If you've liked this podcast, then how do we fit that into a great thing to do is to share the link to this podcast. Why don't you
try it on your friends?
And we're out.
Nice.